The video named Developing Applications Using MetaGami Part 1 stopped at this point. This video will pick up where we left off. Just to go back and recap what we learned in video number 1, we learned how to build a page. First, we needed to get in the layout mode. We then clicked this button to build a page. We learned how to put fields on the page by clicking the new field button or hitting the right mouse click on a page and clicking the new field button. We learned that the third thing as a developer you would do is to identify what you want to do with the field. You can do that by either double-clicking on a field and entering text in the layout mode, thus creating a label field. You can hit the right mouse on a field and call it an identifier field, which then will contain the values that will distinguish different instances of the same page. And the final thing that we did was create calculations. We hit a right mouse on the revenue field, click the calculation tab, and dragged units into that workspace, put an asterisk for multiplication, dragged unit price, and now the calculation in the revenue field is a value calculation. And as you will recall, when we select the name of a company and the name of a month, the value is calculated there based on the values in the units field and the unit price field on this page. We talked about other kinds of things, for example, how to build a table, and concluded showing this table, which now contains all the data where values have been filled in for the basic units and unit price in the various instances. Let's talk a little bit now about how you can actually selectively retrieve data. Let's put all of these pages away by hitting a right mouse in the gray area and clicking Put Everything Away. And let's go back to this projected summary. The table is the vehicle that we use to selectively retrieve data. For those of you who are familiar with database jargon, selective retrieval could also be called a query and would take place in a variety of different ways in traditional databases, requiring a knowledge of technical commands to accomplish that. In MetaGami, nothing of that takes place. Let's go into the layout mode. Let's use this table as the basis of demonstrating how we can accomplish retrieval. Let's simply copy this page, another nice feature, and when we copy the page, it asks which elements we want to retain, just the structure and the calculations, or the structure, calculations, and instances, which is what we do want to retain. We would then say OK, and here we would have a copy of that page. Then let's say that we want to retrieve data in the table where the information is greater, or the revenue, for example, is greater than a particular value. Well, here's where we projected our revenue. So let's now add a field on the page, right mouse click on the page, add a new field. And let's say that I want to drag it down here, and I want the data, as I said, in this table to be that where the revenue exceeds a value I'll put into this field. We know how to do a calculation. We did it over here with the right mouse click and a click of the calculation tab, and dragging the calculation elements into this workspace to create a value. We do the same thing in the table. No technical database query whatsoever. Hit the right mouse click and click the calculation tab. You'll notice, though, that here, instead of saying value, as the calculation did here, it now says where. In other words, I want the data in this table where the revenue that was the basis of the calculation here is greater than the value that I put in this field. Now when I go to the run mode, we can see the values that I have here. I can type 1,000 and we'll find everything over 1,000, 4,000, and so on. It will retrieve the data based on that calculation I established on this page. We also have the ability to look at the data by company, perhaps, and often I would want to see company-specific information without all the companies. So in order to do that, I could just copy this page, but rather than doing that, as was the case before to save time, let's go back here and you'll see the information that I showed you a moment ago. Same exact type of page. I copy this page and that would produce this page, except that I didn't have company on it. We know that the data on a page is specific to the values in each ID field on the page. So in this case, I'm going to click IBM and I'll see IBM's information. Mainstay will provide me Mainstay's information. I can also do my selective retrieval if I want. But now I'm looking at an instance of this table where all the values are specific to a particular company. How did I do that? Well, you know how I did it, because in the layout mode, I created this as a label and made it into a label, created this field and made it into an identifier field, dragged the names from any of the original pages that contain the company names, and now I get the ability to look at data by company. Similarly, if I copy the page again and change this field name from company to month, and then drag the month values into this field, I now have the ability to look at data across companies for each month as easily as that, and that whole process took me only a few seconds to accomplish. That's the marvel of MetaGami. The ease of development, the ease of modification, the ease of retrieval, all without any knowledge of database concepts or even that there is a database. Now, another step beyond the basic kinds of tools comes if I want to make all of these pages be managed with a particular flow. The fields on this page are all fields. The difference was I hit the right mouse on the field and changed the appearance to a button. Buttons are the vehicle that we use to manage the process flow within a particular application. So here I have buttons. You'll see if I go back there and look at the Appearance tab, it says, the label says contact information. That's because I typed contact information right here for the label. And now watch what happens. Go to the run mode, click contact information. It brings up my contact page. There's my data for IBM. When I click return, I'm back to the main menu. Sales projection, here's the name of the company, name of the month. When I want to return, I click the return button. Now, the calculations that cause this to happen are very simple, very straightforward. They are functions, and there are dozens of functions in MetaGami to facilitate various kinds of things more easily than creating the calculation on its own. Each of these buttons has a calculation that contains 3 functions. All MetaGami functions begin with MG for MetaGami, and their name is descriptive of what they're intended to do. So this is MetaGami, close the page, and then I have parentheses, and within the parentheses 2 squiggly brackets that represent this particular page. So close the page. This is set return page. In other words, return when the return button is clicked on another page, return to the most recent page where the set return page was set. So I'm setting the return so that when I go to that contact information page, page or other pages and click return, it will come back here. And then I simply say view the page that I want. MG view page, and then this is just the name of the page. I dragged in from here, dragged it right over there. When I go to the run mode, contact information, you'll see the return button has a couple of functions. The first is the same as the function on the other page to close this page, and the second is MG return to page. In other words, return to the page, the last page that had the return button set. That's how you use functions within MetaGami to create a process flow. Now, there's much more to MetaGami than this, but so much of what you do in MetaGami can be achieved by these simple capabilities. No technical knowledge required, nothing static that cannot be changed to accommodate needs as they evolve, and the ability to create a very easy to use process flow that will guide the user from page to page using the functions that I've shown you here. This is the MetaGami Development Part 2 video. There is another on the web page of developing applications using MetaGami Part 1, as well as other videos on the website having to do with overviews of MetaGami, ways that MetaGami's integration can achieve particularly beneficial results. www.metagami, that's metagami.com is the website. Please feel free to visit it. If you have any questions, please call at 303-478-9312 for more information.